Imagine that you fall asleep on your Amtrak train and you wake up, you find out the train's not even moving. But nothing's wrong, as the crew tells you, because we just changed to daylight saving time. The train has to stop on the track for an hour because it has to arrive on time. True story from David Pre-Rao in his book, Seize the Daylight. Now I know we've all had that experience where you wake up on that Monday morning, you jolt up in a panic, wonder what time it is. Well, that's all due to daylight savings time, isn't it? Well, I've done some diverse research from Benjamin Franklin to more recent government studies, and I think you might be surprised at some of the information. I intend to persuade you that shifting time twice a year costs more than it saves in lives and in dollars, and it should be changed. We'll talk about the lack of uniformity across the country, as not all states participate. We'll talk about the increased risk of automobile fatalities and the increased risk of injury at work. And we'll also talk about increased energy consumption. Now right now there's 3 states that do not participate, and that's Alaska, Hawaii, and Arizona. And up until 2006, Indiana was on a county-by-county participation, and 77 of 92 counties did not participate. And that's information provided by Matthew Kotchin in his work, Does Daylight Savings Time Save Energy? Right now, Utah is considering opting out. And you can read about that in the Salt Lake Tribune. They are encouraging citizens to come out and debate that in the run-up to the ballot initiative in November. It's fairly simple to opt out, and anybody interested in seeing how simple it is can take a look at the Arizona Revised Statutes. And it's only 4 paragraphs. Stephen Corinne, who is the director of Human Neuropsychology and Perception at the University of British Columbia, conducted a study on the effects of the interruption of sleep due to changing your clock for daylight savings time. And he found that the results were an increase of 17% in automobile fatalities. Now you might think, well, they just woke up late and they're in a hurry to get to work. Or maybe it's because it's suddenly dark in the morning commute and the poor light contributes. But the fact is that he found the increase in automobile fatalities occurred during the afternoon commute of the first Monday after the time change. Christopher Barnes is a professor of management at Virginia Tech, also did a study, and his concern was workplace injuries. And he found that the shift in daylight savings time and the interruption of sleep that causes results in a 5.7% increase in workplace injuries. Well, maybe all this is worth it when you consider the energy saved. Let's talk about that, because the fact is the opposite is true. In fact, the savings is questionable at best. The California Energy Commission authorized a study in 2001, which was conducted by a professor of economics at UC Davis, Adrienne Kandel, entitled The Effects of Daylight Savings Time on California Electricity Use. Well, she found through a series of assumptions that some of the researchers didn't agree with, that there was possibly a 3.4% reduction in electrical usage. But in the study itself, she offered a disclaimer which says, positive results are by no means certain. Let's compare those results and that study to one conducted in Indiana by an assistant professor of economics at UC Santa Barbara, Matthew Kotchin. His study took 3 years, and it actually spanned the time during which Indiana mandated statewide participation. So he had those 77 counties that did not participate, and then he had those 77 counties after they started participating. And what he found was the actual energy usage went up by $9 million annually just in those 77 counties. Additionally, the emissions from the power plants that generated that excess power caused $1.7 to $5.5 million in environmental damage. Now you might think, well, $9 million would we do? But that's only 77 counties in one state out of 50. And nobody has ever extrapolated out the total for the country. So we don't really know what it's costing us, but it's costing us something, that's for sure. So we've talked about some lesser known facts about daylight savings time and some of the painful consequences and fallacies of that policy. We talked about the lack of uniformity, the human pain and suffering, and the increased energy usage. Now, all these sources that I've cited are qualified, credentialed professionals in the areas related to the points we discussed. There's no doubt that we're all affected by this. It happens to us twice a year. And because of the human suffering and the environmental impact, I think alternative plans should be developed and supported. And we're all used to it, and that's kind of considered normal. But I don't think that familiarity should trump public safety when we're talking about government policy.